Welcome to Pilgrim Lost. Come walk with us while we explore life in hopeful motion. It's Pilgrim Lost podcast. I am Tony Kriz. Producer Mark is sick. He is down. He's down for the count. He is in bed. He might be sucking his thumb. It is bad. It is bad. No, he's doing okay. We pray for his quick recovery because we miss producer Mark. Here at Pilgrim Lost, we talk about trekking. Often we talk about long distance walking or taking adventures that push our bodies to go the extra mile. Often we talk about the Camino de Santiago, which producer Mark just returned from. And I am going to, matter of fact, by the time we produce this episode, I may be in Spain. Believe it or not, I am already starting to pack. You should see my study. There are little piles of Camino accoutrement all around me because I cannot wait to go. But here at the podcast, we don't just fantasize about the day we get to actually begin our walk on the Camino or any other pilgrimage around the world. We talk about the everyday. We really want to get to what does it mean to be a pilgrim in our everyday life? What does it mean to embrace these themes of community and family, of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, communal health in our everyday life? How do we build practices like a pilgrim would without having to exert privilege to take a month and a half off to fly to the other side of the world and spend a bunch of money to do it in our everyday, working around our jobs, working around the other parts of our lives, working within and around our families? How do we do that? That's what we're talking about here. And I am very privileged today to have a brand new friend, so brand new that you're going to witness some of our first words to one another. This is Cory Douglas. Douglas, right?
That's correct. Cory Douglas.
Cory Douglas. And Cory, I got connected with Cory because Cory met producer Mark on the Camino de Santiago just weeks ago. Cory, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me. And I just want to take a quick moment just to visualize Mark in the bed sucking his thumb. Classic.
So first of all, just give me the big parameters. Married, kids, job, like who are you?
Ooh, okay. Where do I start? I am married for going on 30 years.
God bless.
I have 4 children, 3 are living, and that's a part of the Camino story when we get to that part.
Oh, right? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I am not working currently. Another part of the Camino experience, I was in between jobs when I had opportunity to go on my first, I did the Camino in sections. In my first stint in the Camino, I had an opportunity to go. And as a result of that experience, I was motivated, inspired to go back to college and study philosophy and theology. And so I got a master's in philosophy and theology. And as you find me now, I'm still trying to work out which direction the rest of my life is going to take. I'm trained. My career had been in accounting. I have an accounting degree. I have an MBA. I'm CPA. That kind of financial kind of career path. And I had the privilege to work with some pretty innovative companies. And I was pretty hard driven in terms of my life focus in that area. And I think with many folks that you probably talk to, life has a way of getting your attention.
Yeah.
And it makes no doubt about that. I really want you to pay attention to this. And so I would have, I describe a series of Jobian types of experiences. I would call it Jobian, but It could also be called a Plutonian if you were to use a different kind of
Oh, that's cool.
reference tool
Yeah.
to kind of describe it, right? And and trying to contend with Lord Pluto is not an easy thing. And so, um, having to come to life, come to grips with life and death, my own health, and then the health of my family, my son. It just changes your perspective. You just,
Okay.
I'm forever scarred. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a lot.
No, no.
Yeah,
Your own health, family tragedy,
yeah.
career transformation, self-enlightenment. Okay. Don't let's not climax too early here. Let's work
Yes.
our way into it a little bit, my friend.
You asked me to introduce
I
myself.
know.
I was struggling to figure
Like,
out how to
I
do
can
that.
tell we're already friends because you're exactly like me. I tell my family every day. My middle name is Captain Overkill
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
just tend
Yeah,
to
I
go
probably
for it.
overtold you.
So,
I apologize. But
first of all, tell me about your impressions of producer Mark. Let's go ahead and let's start a little light. What was it like to meet producer Mark on the trail?
oh my God, I remember the day. You know, this is going to sound really corny,
Good,
but there's people you can meet. Like you know how you hear a song for the first time when you're growing up, and you know where you were when you heard that song for the first time.
right?
Meeting producer Mark, and there was another gentleman with us. It was like I remember the day, and it was like I wouldn't say it was love at first sight. That's kind of quirky, but there was this a resonance at first
Mhm.
meeting, right? In that we were immediately in the same kind of vibe. He's
Right.
about like a decade or so older than me, maybe a little bit more. But one of the things I really enjoyed meeting on the Camino was meeting some dudes. Some dudes that I could look up to. Not that I have this demanding standard or whatnot, but just guys who've kind of done it before. They're full human beings in terms of they have some success in their careers, or they're family men, but they also have the capacity to see about their spiritual lives. That's to me is very meaningful, and it's balanced, right? It's a balance in terms of you know prioritization and attention, right? And
Yeah.
so immediately we were able just to establish this tremendous rapport. You talk about, you called yourself Captain Overkill. I think like I found myself asking them questions. The questions you carry with you that you'd struggle with, and you say,
Right.
well, not that I'm not asking you for your answer to my question. I'm asking you, how do you think about this particular aspect? And he has an answer. And, we're talking about things, and maybe it's no conclusion, but at least I can have the conversation. And
100%.
and so over a course of a couple of days, we just really hit it off. And you know, one of the things that happened with the Camino is I had booked a certain cadence in my walking, and so I had to honor that. And he had a slightly different cadence, and so we had a chance to come together for a couple of days. And then because of our cadences being different, then I had to go on further than he did at the time. And that's also something really weird about the Camino as an allegory for a life path kind of thing, right? Where you come into contact with certain people, you coexist for a period of time, and then the frequency or the cadence changes, and then you find yourself like having to go separate ways or come apart. And so that was, in a nutshell, that was my experience with meeting Mark. It was just like someone, hey, show me some pictures after you've kind of gotten to Santiago. Hey, what did you do here? Oh, I really loved how you described what's going on with your son, some of your descriptions of some of the experiences. Here's what happened with me and my family. It was a safe place for me to be vulnerable
Love
and
it.
to have communion.
Love it. Yeah, he's my go-to guy. When I got
Yeah,
something I got to talk through,
yeah,
marriage, kids, finances, future goals, fulfillment,
yeah.
career, like he's my go-to guy.
Those guys, those type of people are gems, right? It's like,
Gems.
yeah. So
So Cory, give me your Camino story. Like, how'd you first hear about it? How long did it take you to go the first time? I guess you've been a couple of times, so just kind of give me the quick overview. Give
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So everyone asks you when you're on the Camino, well, how'd you hear about this thing, right? And so I was reading The Alchemist by Paulo
There
Coelho.
you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I really was impressed by that book, and I wanted to read more of his work. And he had a book called The Pilgrimage, which was his experience on the pilgrimage of Santiago de Compostela. Now, having gone through and done the Camino, Paulo Coelho must have been on mushrooms or something like that. That's what he describes in the book.
Yeah.
This total metaphysical kind of experience he had. Whereas my experience was more like achy legs and sore feet. But that piqued my interest. And then, I think everyone knows about the Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez movie, The Way.
Right.
And, I was coming in contact with the Camino. There's one other source I want to mention, but as this was happening, I was just being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma,
Come on.
and that and I've just started my chemo protocol, and that was a very constraining experience, to say the least. Right? I'm not gonna I'm sure there's a lot of people who have cancer stories, and I'm not trying to be unique in terms of my experience, but it's a harrowing kind of experience. It's like, I call it like, um, it's not Orphic, but you tend to like see the gates of the underworld a little bit. When you go into the waiting room to get your treatment, you
Yeah.
see a variety of different types of people. You encounter other stories who are, and I've come across several individuals who are like really struggling far more than I was. So I just, I don't use that language. Oh, I kicked cancer's butt or anything like that. I don't say that at all. I usually talk about like, well, this is something came to teach me a lesson, and can I be open enough to it to like understand what it wanted to tell me?
Right.
And I treated it with respect. But so this was going on where I was coming in contact with the idea of the Camino. I read somewhere about major religions, and how each of the major religions have some kind of rite or concerning pilgrimage.
Right.
But get out of
Correct.
here! Get out of here! And I didn't believe it. And I grew up in a Protestant kind of environment from a Christian standpoint, and so that's not something that people. I mean, I guess you could go on a plane and fly to Israel or something like that, and go to Bethlehem or something like that. But it was nothing. I've never heard of that concept of pilgrimage before, and so I looked it up, and sure enough, there's all these different pilgrimages. And I thought, like, well, this would be a good way for me to spend some time, if I'm able to recover from this illness, which thank goodness I was.
Really quickly before you move on, put a pin in that. Don't forget where you are. I just want to make sure to emphasize again, this idea of pilgrimage has birthed in every corner of the planet, in all of these different cultural, religious systems. The idea has come about as this is something that is good for you. This would be something that would be helpful. And inevitably, like you said, the pilgrimage for you was sore legs and hurting feet or whatever you said. In the midst of like basically putting yourself in a position of pain, everyone I know, everyone to a person who has done a pilgrimage like the Camino de Santiago, at the end they say it's one of the best experiences of their entire life. They loved it. It was transformational. So there's this global discovery of pilgrimage, and then there's this universal experience of pilgrimage, that it's meaningful. It is something that's meaningful, which is why we started this podcast, because we wanted to go, well, then these themes probably need to be a part of our lives. Like these themes probably need to be, because if it's this global and this universal, then it must be inherently human. And if it's inherently human, it must be cooperative with sort of what it means to live a full human life. Sorry for that. Please continue.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It was something that struck me as something as universal, A, and B, it's like, wow, can I arrange my life in a way where I can experience have such an experience? Because there
Yeah.
is something there spiritually that we'll talk about later that that the pilgrimage offers you, right? You don't, I can't say I knew I was getting myself into, you know, who does, right? Um, so I finished my chemo treatment in, I would say, April of 2016. And in
Okay.
May of 2016, I was on the Camino.
Come on.
No, I was pretty nervous too. And I think everyone described to you how the first day is, right? It's pretty.
Yeah. So no, I'm sorry. You finished your chemo in April and you were on the Camino,
Yeah.
Chemo Camino. That's a little difficult to say.
Yeah.
Chemo in April, Camino in May. Were
Yeah.
you skinny? I mean, were
I
you?
was, I was, I was at least 20, 30 pounds skinnier than I was now. I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not sure if I could actually walk for those distances over.
Oh,
I was really nervous about it. And I had a family friend, a cousin of mine, come with me. And I have to tell you, it was we only went for 10 days. The first 10 days, we walked from St. John to Legrano in 10
okay.
days or so. And it was like the most incredible experience of my life. One of the
That's
most.
that's that's a rough 10 days. I mean, that's some
We
you're
were
getting some
walking. No, we
vertical.
were
You're getting
walking.
some vertical in there.
Yeah, we were walking. We walked up that mountain and in the Pyrenees and came
Yeah.
down the other side, which is it's just as hard.
Yeah.
And no, we covered some ground and we met some friends that, I can like use the superlatives that you've already indicated. It's just like, um, just a tremendous kind of self gift, right?
Right.
And even then, I was in between jobs and I was trying to figure out how to make this all work. And the challenge was just, having that block of time, and then your career responsibilities, and your family responsibilities. Guys, I still had two younger kids. My oldest son was still alive then. Um, and then just trying to balance all that stuff. And I just came through this massive illness, and so I was able to squeeze in 10 days. And so I was so grateful for that.
Right.
I took them and I was hooked. And I had this aha moment where, there's a couple of things that happens, on a pilgrimage, right? That I want to talk to you about from my perspective. But let me just finish this train of like my Camino experience. So I did that for 10 days, came back, lived life a little bit. 2 years later, I came back with my entire family. I felt so compelled by the beneficial aspects of the experience that I had my wife and my three of my kids come. I had my mother come. I had my sister, her two kids, my two nieces come, and some other family. It was about 11 or 12 of us. And we walked a portion of the Camino together.
I've never heard of that.
Yes. Yes. We didn't make a lot of, we didn't cover a lot of ground. We have a party of that size. We walked from Legrano to Burgos, which was legitimate.
Okay.
What inspired me to do that is because the first time I walked on the Camino, I saw families, grandparents,
Right.
grandchildren. It's just a wonderful kind of medieval kind of tradition where just people from Europe and all over the world just walk this together as a family. And so I was really inspired that here's something. No, there's some terrain places where the terrain would be like, you have to be mindful and make sure that someone who's older is mindful of the terrain, and maybe you skip that little part or something like that. But here's something where you can really experience like each other in a new kind of atmosphere. We had great food. We had great fellowship. We argued sometimes, family stuff, right?
And Burgos is a great town for family.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of feels like Disneyland a little bit. There's all the white stone and the big cathedral, and they've got the little cogwheel train that runs around so that's great.
Yeah. So, the first time I was inspired to go back to college and study philosophy and theology, and so I was
Okay.
doing that, and I didn't finish until um, June or May of 2020, and I had planned part of my you know completion was to get my degree and then finish the Camino. But we all know what happened in 2020. Um, those plans went awry because of COVID,
Yep.
and the COVID was pretty frightening. I live in the New York metropolitan area, and
Okay.
so yeah, and so it was just really COVID really hit New York City really hard in the surrounding areas, and that plan was put on hold, and I found myself like for like 18 months chipping at the bit. It was like really like it was some kind of internal suffering because I felt like I have a predisposition towards completion. And yet, here's the biggest thing in my life that I care. One of the biggest things in my life I care about. I haven't completed it yet. It just
Hmm.
was just nagging at me. And just fortunately, like this year, things opened up well enough for me to finish it. And I was able to go there with my wife, um, and that's where I met Mark. And we spent the month of June walking from Burgos to Santiago. And
Fantastic.
yeah, that's my Camino story.
And
It's
your
just
wife was there with you the whole time?
she was there with me the whole time. I mean, I think this kind of hiking is not quite her style, but yeah, she was. We had it situated where if she needed a day off or something like that, this was a lesson for me. This was the
Okay.
lesson I have to tell you. Um, you can make it so a person who's like, okay, something's going on with my ankle or something like that, or just not feeling like it. Hey, you can take a service to the next town and wait for me, and I can do the walking.
Yep.
I can be very literal and try to hold everyone to my standard about how things are supposed to be. I have to walk every single inch, even if I'm in pain and suffering. And my wife has a different approach. She says, "Look, this is not working for me, and I'm a do what works for me."
Right.
And that's a lesson I learned on the Camino. It's like, okay, you have to. It seems like an obvious lesson to learn, but
100%. I mean,
it's
everyone's pilgrimage is their pilgrimage, and
exactly,
we
exactly.
cannot sanctify a particular philosophy of how fast you walk, how far you walk, whether you carry your bag or not, whether or not you stay in a hotel or in a hostel, whatever it is. Everyone's, whether you go 10 days, you go 30 days, you go 40 days, you go 50 days. It's your Camino, and that in itself is a metaphor of life.
Yes,
Because
yeah,
we're so tempted to judge other people based on the life that we're living.
yes,
We
yes,
have to let every person manifest their own like self-actualization and trust the divine to be leading each person on their unique pilgrimage through life. And I completely agree. That's one of the themes of this podcast is, sometimes we have fun and Mark and I joke around about how, he sends his bag forwards and stays in hotels and I poke fun at him. But all of that is really just to come back and say, no, that's great. Like you need to do that, bud. And that's your pilgrimage. And I've got no right to say one way or the other about it.
yeah. No, and it's funny because you talk about the judging, and
Mm,
when you start to realize is that, oh, how much you actually do that, and how much you do it to yourself, because
mm,
that's you're holding yourself accountable to some type of inner judgment, and then you take that inner part and then you project it onto other people as well. And so you still come back to you're able to kind of through that dynamic find some more self-discovery and then find some more inner space, and then hopefully when you find that inner space you can afford more space for other people. That's my
yes. So you left a couple narratives there sort of hanging earlier. One was some transformative experiences you had after that second Camino, or in the midst of that. Can you get into some of those transformative experiences?
Well, one of the things we were talking about just earlier is just how universal the the spirit of pilgrimage is across, the
Yes.
world. And okay, what can you encounter on a pilgrimage? Why is this so important? Why is it so universal? And some of the things I kind of realized is like, okay, what am I carrying in my pack? What am I carrying metaphorically in my mind, or
Mm,
literally in my pack? Do I need everything in my pack?
mm,
I have all this safety stuff. Yeah, I can be safe. I can have multiple, um, not shoes, but like, things to wear and stuff like that. But that has a weight and that has a price, and you have to carry that stuff. And it's like, so you end up always assessing, what am I carrying? Do I really, really, really need this? And so you end up taking things out your pack. And I say that's a metaphor for what happens emotionally and mentally. You kind of like start to take things out of because you're walking, you're in this verdant kind of topography where it's just everything's beautiful, and you're upset or you're thinking about something that's 3,000 miles or 4,000 miles away. It happened in the past, or you're projecting into the future. And so this is the baggage that you're carrying. And what I really liked about the Camino is that you walk long enough, you start to realize you can outwalk your thoughts.
hmm.
You know, you think that you don't realize that. I didn't realize that I could be thinking about something, and I can think about it for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I've thought about it as much as I can be able to think about it, and
Mm-hmm.
it just disappears. It dissipates.
You get released from it.
You get
That's
released
my
from it.
experience. It's
Yeah,
like,
I mean
oh,
that's the whole that's meditation. That's what meditation tries to reveal to the meditator. But on the Camino, on a pilgrimage, you get that same experience where
right.
I can, like, stuff just starts to fall off, and
Yeah.
I'm just present in the moment, experiencing all there is to experience right
Yes.
here and there.
Yes.
That's one.
By the way, just on that, my metaphor for that is so I just walked it once. I walked from Saint Jean to Santiago 4.5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, and then I'm going again next month. I leave in
Ooh,
September,
oh my God.
and when I was walking, I had this experience where my subconscious, about mile 11, my subconscious would get so bored that it would go into the attic of my mind, into the dusty boxes it never has time to go through, and my
Yep.
subconscious would grab a box and start to work through it. Next thing you know, I spend the next 3 hours thinking about my dad, or thinking
Yeah.
about my mom, or thinking about this childhood experience, or this particular wound, or this particular false belief I have about myself, or this mentor from my childhood that I haven't thought of in forever, who gave me so much, and remembering the gift of relationships and these older people who have put things in my life, or whatever it would be, go through a box. And I would get to the point where my subconscious would get to the bottom of the box, and my subconscious would go, okay, you thought through that. Good job. And I just let it go, and put the box aside. And the next day I might open another box.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. I hear you. It's like, you do, it does give you ample time in a safe place to process a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? And your body's constantly moving, and you're constantly bombarded with just beauty,
Yeah.
and so that's what's really great about
And
it.
pain, beauty and pain. There's a lot of mourning that takes place.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of, those hurts that we push down with the busyness of our life. Those things start to surface, and we have to mourn, and we have to grieve some things afresh, because your mind's like, I can't keep it pushed down in this space any longer. I'm sorry. I just can't. And your soul starts to go, we have to deal with this.
no, I absolutely agree with you, and I thank you for bringing that to the conversation. I mean, it's easy to talk about, like, letting things go, but it's also, I agree, it's also a good time to process things that need to be expressed. And there's a lot. There are tears on that road, and
Yeah.
and um, how can I describe the tears? That the tears are, um, they are needed. they're welcome. They're part of your life experience as a human being. And I think sometimes in our culture, we get so kind of caught up with trying to put on a good face on everything and achieve and overcome that you never have a proper amount of time to mourn and to let yourself feel the heartaches that you carry fully and come to terms with them.
Yeah.
I think that makes you a much more compassionate human being. And so I think it also lets you think thoughts that you don't let yourself think, and to have a grounding. One of the things that I was really intrigued with by the Camino was, and I'm not necessarily a Catholic at all, but I do recognize a sacred space when I see one.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to like do all this processing, like you said, like whether it be tears or memories or reflections, and then to have a break and walk into like an old chapel or something like that and sit down in a pew and just breathe and just meditate, to me was just an incredible gift to kind of be able to do that. You could do that on the road, or you could do that like there was big basilicas and cathedrals and stuff like that. It was overwhelming, but the little side of the road, little ramshackle little little church thing place. I thought those were the best. Those were my
Half
favorite.
falling apart. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So great.
a little sister there, like
Yeah. Simple little wooden pews, and you go in and
I'm gonna sit here for 15 minutes and just breathe.
Yeah, just breathe.
Those were just like
just breathe.
Just totally helpful, totally like welcome. A gift, actually,
hey Cory, you've you alluded to your son a couple times. You want to talk about that?
Yes. So this is an interesting conversation. Let me see, where should I begin? So my son, he passed away when he was 21. And he went to college when he was 18. And when he came back, he was just not the same person. He was struggling with a mental illness that was diagnosed as some form of schizophrenia. And we was totally unprepared to even hold that diagnosis. We just didn't even know what it meant, and now from my perspective, I kind of believe, and there's a full spectrum in terms of mental illness. Like you can sometimes it's good to have a medication, it's a medical, it's a physiological kind of treatment that's, the course of action. But sometimes I think it's a symbolic emergency as well, to quote a Stanislav Grof kind of thing. And I think my son suffered from a symbolic crisis of meaning. And but he would never talk about it. And so he he just deteriorated. He had a predisposition. He developed a predisposition for suicide, and he eventually was successful in doing that. And this is after we had him in like some pretty, we thought at the time, pretty good care. About his whole life, I was always trying to, I would say, entice him through, like, in the beauty of life, like, look at this. Isn't this fun? When you like to do this, would you be interested in this? And he had his way of being able to see through things, in a way that kind of showed the fleetingness of it. And I think with that kind of perspective, if you're not careful, you develop a hopelessness in terms
Mhm.
of like our existence on this kind of plane right here. This,
Mhm.
it's like, where's the enjoyment? Where do you find purpose? And I think that in my deep down in my heart, I felt that was his that's what he struggled with in terms of trying to kind of come to terms with it. I think he had um, specters in his mind. Like I'll give you an example of what I'm referring to. Um, like you can like say, for instance, you could try to protect yourself, and so you build a castle to do that, and so you're going to be safe. You're going to be safe. Then you finally outgrow the castle, and you want to leave the castle, and it's not so easy to get out the castle. There's a guard at the castle, and that guard is pretty ferocious, and he's there to protect you. And now you have to defeat the guard to get out the castle that you built in your own mind. And you
Right.
can have these kind of specters in your mind all the time, and you have to always come to terms with it. That's why I like to read like a lot of some of like the fairy tales and things like that nature, some of the Jungian psychoanalysis stuff that kind of goes through the stories, the hero's quests, and that kind of stuff. I think those things are really important for young men these days. That's just another side topic of just how to derive meaning out of your life. You know, I think also we suffer from some family dynamics are just that are like hereditary and ancestral, right? Just like performances. And now I come from a tradition of a family where people don't talk about things that goes on. Like,
Right.
well, here's what was the deal? What was the deal with Uncle Dave? Oh, we don't talk about Uncle Dave,
Right. Right.
or a great grandfather or ancestor. They suffer from a family dynamic, and so you kind of like, as you set your own families, you're kind of like uninformed about some of the potentialities that are there.
Right.
So one of the things that struck me is with my son is like when he was first diagnosed, the psychiatrist said, "Hey, do you have any mental illness that runs in your family?" And my answer was no. I was pretty confident that no. And then after some time transpired, it started to dawn on me. No, wait a minute. You know, there's something that's going on with my aunt here.
Right.
And no one talked about this part of this going on with
Yeah.
relative.
Yeah.
And so you start to realize that that vocabulary didn't really exist for us, and there's just some aspects of our personalities that we have to attend
Yeah.
to. If we don't attend to it properly, there's some repercussions.
How have you attended to your grief about it?
Well, the luckiest thing, most fortunate thing. This is a pilgrimage right here. This is a pilgrimage story. This is going to tie right back into pilgrimage. And the most fortunate thing that ever happened to me was I went on the Camino, and I decided to go back to theology school. And I took my first class in September, and my son died in October. So Octobers are hard. Like it's coming around this time. His birthday is September 5th, and he died in October. So fall is pretty hard, and I know that. So I try to come to terms with it. And I was just devastated when that happened. It's indescribable. I don't even want to describe it because I don't even want you to even know what it feels like. That's how terrible. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I was in my classes, and I was dropping my classes. I was telling my professors this is what happened. I was in grief. I had one instructor. She said, "You know what? You should keep this class. Come to the class, talk about it." And that class was um, a class about how myths are relevant in your life today. And the main text of that class was the Odyssey. And I read the Odyssey when I was in high school. I didn't really get it, but to read the Odyssey when you're, middle-aged man is a different kind of experience with a guide. And the Odyssey really helped me kind of come to terms. So we did the Odyssey. We did some poetry with Rene Rilke, if I'm saying his name correctly, and it gave me more vocabulary and more heart to kind of to be broken. It gave me gave me some orientation around what it is to live a human life. You know, the ups and downs and the um, the allegories that were expressed with Odysseus in that book was really helpful to me. And then I was also contemplating studying Jungian psychoanalysis, and so I had a therapist already, and so
Right.
so I was able to use that, you know, talk analysis, talk therapy to
There you go.
help me. And then my pilgrimage kind of changed. You know, I'm sorry, just some, you know, I'm getting notified. I'm going to take that off. Um, so, but it's a process. I can't tell you. It's like it's there's some distance from it, and time does have a way of
Right.
you know, making it less intense. But then I still have moments where I just really miss my son, and it just I know that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I also learned from the pilgrimage that, you know, that things have a limit to how long they last. I'm going to be really intensely sad for a period of time, and then, you know, it's going to
Yeah.
pass. And that just lets me know that I miss him and I love him. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you just thank you for all that. That's
that's a
really
lot, right?
amazing treasure. You just completed the Camino Frances. You just
Yes.
and you did it in 3 stages. You just did Burgos to Santiago, and
Yep.
you've been home now less than a month or about
Yep.
a month. How you doing? How's the reentry?
Ooh. So it was, you know, this is a Christian joke. You know, Christ, he went to he was buried in the cave for 3 days and 3 nights, and then they rolled a rock back, and then the maidens came to see him, and he said, "Don't touch me," or maybe it was Peter. He said, "Don't touch me. I haven't ascended to heaven yet." It was like you coming back off that is like, okay, I need a little time to myself just to kind of
Yeah.
like come to terms with like what I just experienced. And I'm gonna dare say this, you know, just put what I just experienced in northern Spain aside. You come to back to America, and you experience America in a different kind of way too, right? It's like, what the heck is this place? In terms of its priorities, and you know, you've been like in this bubble for so long, and you get to come outside the bubble, and you come back in, and you're like, what the heck's going on here? And I have some friends that I talk about about the Camino, and one of the things a good friend of mine has told me, a mentor, he said, you have to think about how to harvest. He used the word harvest your experiences from the
There you
Camino.
go.
And so, what that is leading me to do, and I'm a work in progress here, is try to I'm not going to say authentically live your life. 'Cause I think that's like, but courageously, be more courageous with yourself about
There you go.
what you're willing to kind of who you really are, and what that really means in terms of what direction your life's going to take going forward.
There you go.
Bring that courage into it, right? It's like, and so that's why I'm cultivating.
I like
Uh,
it.
you know, that's where my meditation lies. That's, you know, it's funny, when I went to the Camino, I took these journals with me. I thought I was going to be writing all this stuff down. I must have wrote 3 pages. There was just too much stuff to see, too many people to meet, you
Yeah.
know, too many things to experience. And so I'm capturing a lot of that stuff now. It's happening for me
Yeah.
now. And I, at my own peril, I mean, I have to act in this space that this Camino has shown me, or to not do so is at my own peril. I'm not really expressing that well, but I know that, like, I don't have an excuse not to be authentic. If I'm not authentic, because I'm not being courageous enough to be authentic.
There you go.
You know, and
yeah, you used a metaphor earlier about the backpack.
yeah,
and there's limited space in the backpack, and when you're walking on a pilgrimage and carrying your pack, every item has been discerned and rediscerned as to whether or not it's really necessary, because you're going to carry that thing, whatever it is, and
yeah,
is it worth carrying, or do you got to let it go?
yeah.
Do you got to let that thing go? And that's part of the courage.
That is
I,
part of courage. Yes.
I
Oh, it's a
remember.
really nice thing I got here. This is really nice. I worked so hard to get this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah, when
Yep.
I got back, one of the things I just really felt is I had spent my adult life trying to be somebody, trying to be known, trying to be the guy that people call, the guy that knows everybody, and I was maintaining all of these like spheres of relationships, whole communities. I was staying connected, and I was exerting so much psychic energy to maintain this massive web of people. And I just realized I'm actually not being real to any of it, because my energy is going towards keeping all the plates spinning, not actually being deep with actual human beings. So actually going deep in life. And I just had to let a bunch of networks go. And it was amazing. And once I stopped calling, they stopped calling me. And it's like, I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't as deep as I thought it was, and I kind of learned who my people were coming.
Yeah.
That was one way that I unloaded my backpack when I got back.
Yeah. One of the things I'm meditating on now, and one of the things is the observation from the Camino itself was it never got old for me. I mean, this is my primary image of the Camino. That was the image of like taking my iPhone and pointing it forward and having that Camino road wind
Right.
out into the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, that was just the most powerful symbol of the whole experience. And I just love that, like
Great.
that kind of feeling. And I'm saying, okay, you know what? No matter what I decide to do, yeah, I have to have a feeling like that about what I decide to do. Like I'm going on this adventure to some place
Life.
unknown and uncharted, perhaps, and it's going to make me feel a certain kind of giddy way. What I have to resist is this temptation to feel safe, to have things around me like the stuff that you have in your backpack we were just talking about moments ago. And I worked so hard for it, but mm, it, it was it was how can I say it? It was effort I used to achieve something that's maybe less than ideal at this stage of my life. But it's a sunk cost. That's a accounting term for it. But I have to let that go and not try to feel safe with what I've already have, but to have the courage to go forward to like where that adventure is going to lie for me.
There you go.
That's the lesson of the Camino. That's what it, for me in a nutshell, is where that's where my primary meditation and motivation lies at this stage of my life. It's just, okay, man, you know how this is going to end. And the question is, what path you want to walk on, how you want to walk on it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cory, thanks for spending time with us.
Oh, you totally
Man,
welcome, man.
You opened up the treasure chest. I mean, seriously. Coming through cancer, loss of your son, the rediscovery of life, the change of career. I mean, you really unloaded, and I just want you to know I really appreciate it. And I feel like you're a friend now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so great. And if you're ever in Portland, bud, I'm going to show you the town. So let me know.
Portland all the time. No.
All right, brother.
Ask you a question. Who's ever in Portland?
You kidding me? Everybody comes to Portland.
I'm just joking. That's a joke. That's a bad joke. I'm sure. Portland. I've been to Portland a couple of times. It's a nice.
All right. I lived in summer in New York. Loved it.
Yeah.
Best summer of my life. So,
Yeah.
all right.
All right, man.
Thank you, my friend. And thank you to the Pilgrim Lost community. Thanks for being a part of it. Please check us out at pilgrimlost.com. And if you want to be one of our partners, please go to our Patreon account. We really appreciate the support. Thanks to everyone. And thank you, Cory and producer Mark. Get well soon.
Yep. Take care.